Deserts, forests, mountains, glaciers, oceans, turquoise atolls in the Pacific within minutes. And it's beautiful. And this combination of three things, wide field of view, changing very fast, and beautiful, makes you cry. You really literally cry, you feel tears in your eyes because you are so moved by the beauty of the earth. And we all fall in love with our planet. And when you think of it, you look at it on the dark black of the cosmos, you see it as an isolated ship. It's a spaceship. You will hear every astronaut talking about the Earth as a spaceship. We are all crew members of that same spaceship. And then you tend to make the relationship between the Earth as a spaceship and your own spaceship. And the ocean appears as a life support system. You know that the oxygen we breathe comes mainly from the photosynthesis of the plants in the ocean, not the Amazonian forest, or it's mainly the phytoplankton, which is also in charge of absorbing carbon dioxide. The ocean regulates the temperature, regulates the water cycle, and on my flights were on the shuttle, very short, about 10 days each, not like 6 months with the luxury of on the weekend sometimes to have 1 or 2 hours. So we used to take on the sleep time, we sleep less just to have time to look at the window. We were too hard during the day, and we pinch each other like this. Hey buddy, this is us here? Is this real? And it is so, so moving. What you described, I remember myself thinking the same thing. You see places where you were born, where you have your family, your friends, where you have been living, and you see life. What makes the Earth beautiful is a contrast of colors and minerals because it houses life. If there was no life on Earth, it would probably be uniform like the moon, but still beautiful. You remember Buzz Aldrin? Do you remember the first words of Buzz Aldrin on the moon?
No.
After Neil Armstrong said one small step for man, he said, magnificent desolation.
Very poetic. Andre, do you remember your first glance at Earth, for your first flight, first time you looked out the window? Do you fall in love like this as well?
Well, the very first time was during launch. I wanted this for 33 years, so you're very anxious, you want to go and you hope nobody cancels the flight. And then at about 84 kilometers altitude, the fairing goes off. And then you can look outside. So you have, the window is a few, 10-20 centimeters from your head. And then in my side the sun came in, so I was blinded. But then my American colleague, he said, Andre, look, it was also his first flight. So I looked around and I saw his face beside, it was on the window, and then I saw this blue curvature beside the blackness of space. And that was a fantastic moment. Something I hoped for 33 years. I wanted to see the Earth from space. I wanted to be, and even if the flight would have been discontinued and I would land straight away, then my dream was fulfilled. I wanted to see the Earth from space. It was fantastic to see this planet. I can hardly add to this. And I remember very well a moment at night, because then it's like flying over black velvet with golden threads of all the cities. And I remember that I was flying over the Alps at night, and without a camera this time. So all of a sudden I realized I could still see the light of Dublin, and I turned to the left and I saw the south of Spain. And I could see Oslo, and then I turned to the right, and then Athens came up, and in the distance I could even see the glow of Cairo. So I realized that just by moving my head I could see the whole of Europe. And that was a fantastic moment, because normally with cameras you detail. The famous mistake of the tourists, you only take pictures and at home you realize where you have been. So in that space the same. Sometimes you need just look, just use your eyes, and then it's fantastic. It takes a while to realize that you're outside. We're working very hard, and even in the space station we're working very hard. And
yes, but what I mean is,
I know what you're
more opportunities over 10 days. The fantasy. My fantasy as an astronaut is to learn the Earth by heart. Some Russians have flown several times 6 months. One has flown 5 times 6 months in space. You show him a picture of anywhere on Earth. He tells you just by looking the name and where it is on Earth. He knows the Earth by heart. visually, and that's the summum for a human being to know the home planet, you know, just visually by now.
But you still have to be lucky.
I
because
get lost every day going to work, so definitely not.
you still have to be lucky. I come from Holland. Well, my best picture from Holland was during my first flight, 11 days. Because during the second flight, 193 days, there was not a day when it was cloudless with in daytime. I had beautiful pictures at night, but it was very difficult to find a cloudless Holland in daytime for half a year.
For half a year, no clouds in Holland. Well, only clouds over Holland. Yeah, that's unlucky. But what really fascinates me mostly when astronauts say one of the most important rooms on board the space station is what we call the cupola, this big window, this dome window where we can really, like you said, Andre, turn around. And this is what we see on the picture. So now we see you, Luca, waiting for a target here with your camera. I would like to know, how long did you take from after entering the space station to go to this place? How long does it take decency to just leave your crewmates and say, I want to see that?
I would say that it takes probably 30 seconds to fly from the big.
Yeah, but you couldn't do that because you need to say hello, then you have a press conference with me, and then
well, that is true. The first thing, first of all, you have the meet and greet with the crew. These are your friends that you haven't seen in a couple of months. You've been training with them, and so it's a very nice moment when you see them again. And actually, for me, it was a big surprise because my crewmate, Chris Cassidy, who normally has a nice shock of hair, just like Drew, he shaved his head just for me, and nobody knew except for his wife. So when I saw him, I started laughing. And there's this picture of me, and if you look around on the internet, you can see this picture of me floating in with this huge smile on my face, and people thought that I was so happy. I was happy, but I was also laughing because I saw Chris with a shaved head and a goatee. That's just to give you just the kind of idea of things that astronauts do. But yeah, so after you get in the space station, you have, first of all, you have a safety briefing. Just in case something happens, you have to be ready to abandon the ship if you have to, or to react immediately. So the commander will give you a briefing. And then you have the radio calls with the ground and all that. Then if you're like me, I was starving, so I had to eat something. And then I finally went. And there's also another reason why I had to wait, is because when Soyuz docks, the space station is in a different orientation. It's not facing, it's not necessarily facing the Earth, because it's whatever orientation makes it easier from an orbital mechanics point of view for docking. So in our case, the space station was floating with the cupola facing forward. And when they rotated it back, we have to close all the windows in order not to damage them with the jets. And so we had to wait until the rotation was completely done, and then we could. They gave us permission to open the windows and go look. But that was, as soon as I could, that's what happened. If I may still get a couple of more minutes.
A couple of more seconds.
No, minutes. I have another story to say, because Jean-Francois mentioned how busy they were on the space shuttle, and I wish I'd flown the space shuttle. It was such a wonderful machine. I'm a pilot, so I grew up dreaming of flying the space shuttle. And yes, it is true that on the space station, on a 6-month mission, we have more time. But there is one occasion where you have even less time than on the space shuttle, and it's during an EVA. An EVA is an extravehicular activity. It's when astronauts go outside the space station to do science, to work, to do maintenance, or to set up the space station for new configurations. So I am extremely lucky, I have to say. I'm very, very privileged. I had the chance to do two EVAs. And on the first EVA, not so much on the second one, EVA, extravehicular activity, so outside the space station.
It's when the astronauts have their big white suits.
Yeah, the big Michelin Man suits. The one the kids expect when they talk about astronauts. They want to see us with the
George Clooney and
Sandra Bullock.
Exactly.
For those who saw the wonderful film Gravity.
Yes, I'm sorry I don't look like George Clooney or Sandra Bullock, but that's what I could provide for today. So anyway, the extracurricular activities, the EVAs, are extremely busy. Every moment is choreographed because it's so incredibly complicated to perform an EVA that there is a timeline that has to be respected. It's incredibly taxing from a physical point of view. So usually we don't have any time during this prestation to do our business.
So when do you? I mean, is it work time that you spend in there, or when do you do that?
Oh, so this can be work time because sometimes we have targets that we have to get for researchers on the ground. For example, I don't remember this specific moment, but they call us to take pictures of floods, of disasters. Fires, like in California, the year that I was on the space station, we had these terrible fires in California, and we provided pictures in real time of where the fires were, and we saved lives with our pictures. We actually got a thank you note from the firefighters from California for providing these very valuable pictures. But anyway, let me go back to the
So that's important. That's important. I want to
Absolutely, yeah.
understand.
Otherwise, there are very few moments that we can spend in Cupola. During the day, unless we are doing maybe sports and our physical activity is done right in Cupola, our ARED is right there, so maybe you're doing push-ups or squats and you look up and you see a beautiful target, you just go and fly and take a picture. But otherwise there are days where maybe you spend 30 seconds in the Cupola. Or during the weekend, there would be a time when maybe you can spend some time. Also, you have to imagine that during a night time over the ocean, for example, there aren't many targets that you can take. So it could be completely black outside, especially if the lights are on. So we don't spend a lot of time on the Cupola.
Except when you have robotics operations, because in the Cupola there is a robotic workstation, and you may be asked to stay there for hours as a pilot of the Canadian arm, and you are just there. So sometimes you can be lucky to be in the Cupola for work. Of course, you have to focus on the arm you fly, but you have the Earth in the background of space. So
yes, I think that both, going on the robotics, both Andre and I were lucky enough to capture 2 demo missions. So Andre was the first to capture a Dragon. I was the first to capture Cygnus, the first 2 commercial spacecraft. So quite a record for these astronauts, as a matter of fact.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Yeah.
One thing I wonder, just if you come
I wanted to say, since we are in Germany, I just wanted to tell my first arrival in orbit the first time. We launched from Florida midday, and we arrived over Europe at the Terminator. The Terminator is not Schwarzenegger, it's the line between the night side and the day side of the Earth. And I could see France on one side, still under the sun. I mean, the sun was setting in France. But over Germany, there was a thunderstorm at night, and I could see huge masses of clouds illuminated inside by lightnings. When you see over 100 kilometer, 700 kilometer wide, masses of clouds, sparkling jet of lights from inside, it's very impressive. You feel, I better be here than under those lightnings. And this is when you realize that the Earth, as a climatologic, geologic body, has its own life that will survive us in the long run. But it's very powerful.